December. This is the first of Indie Kennel. A little about me, for anyone who didn't hear, I literally only became a furry in February. And like I literally just like jumped straight into the deep end. I was like, I'm gonna make a fursuit, I'm gonna do some commissions, I'm gonna, go all out. This is actually the first fursuit head I've ever made. I did not have such luck with the boss. I think everyone knows what a fursuit is. There's different, people partial, full suit. I'm going to be talking about partial making, just because that's what I have experience in. And also, if I am talking too fast, like yell at me and tell me to slow down, because sometimes I get really excited. But yeah. Starting with materials, I'm so sorry about this. I can't do anything about that. I usually get like 1-inch foam and 2-inch foam, just because having both is like really helpful, so you don't have to glue multiple pieces of foam together. Patterns and paper for patterns. Patterns, you can either make them yourself or find them online. I've done both. Hot glue, obviously, you need a lot of it. Duct tape for more patterning. A marker and chalk. For the so chalk, not sidewalk chalk, get sewing chalk. For a marker, a permanent marker is fine, but only black or silver, because other colors will bleed, and I know this from experience. Sewing clips and pins. I find sewing clips are super useful, especially for thick fabrics, like faux fur, because the pins will tend to like distort it a little bit. But both are handy for different situations. A needle and thread, straight needle, curved needle are both great. A sewing machine, I did both. I both hand sewed and used a sewing machine. There's some good budget sewing machines, so you don't need to get like a super high end, like fancy sewing machine. Scissors, obviously. A carving knife, an electric carving knife, like we use for turkey, great for foam.
Yes.
Really helpful for foam. Oh, and then back to the thing for foam, a lot of people use upholstery foam. I actually like it's like kind of a lightweight foam that I've used. And I like that one, but like a lot of people say upholstery foam. So, obviously faux fur, minky and fleece. Faux fur being for anything that has fur. Minky and fleece are good for this is faux fur on the inside of my ears, but it's good for the tongue. It's good for and it's good for like lining stuff. It's good for the claws are made of minky. And my paws aren't made of minky, but a lot of people make minky paws. And then fabric for lining. It's like a lightweight lycra. Great. Eye links. They can either be 3D printed or you can make them yourself. I bought mine on Etsy because I don't want to have to deal with modeling and printing myself and not knowing if it's going to fit. But I know that these are going to be great quality. And then buckram mesh is what you use for the eyes. You can there's multiple ways to do it. You can either print it out. I actually painted it on myself. So, multiple ways to do that. And then that's a picture of all of my materials in my car. Places to get materials. Joanne fabrics, except not for faux fur. This is the fur that I got from Joanne Fabrics, and I dyed it for the colored parts. And you can see the difference between this tail and this tail. Just the way how this one's like way higher quality of fur. And then same with the paws. They just look kind of ratty, as opposed to these paws, which are like really soft, really nice. But if you, for some reason, don't want to order it online, Joann's for works. But really what I like Joanne Fabrics for, they always have sales, especially like on foam. So I've gotten foam, usually it's sold like, they have like a 1-inch foam roll for like, it's usually like $30, but I've seen it as low as like $10. And so I love Joanne Fabrics, they always have coupons, use coupons, they're great. For fabrics, there's Big Z Fabrics, there's for faux fur, there's Big Z Fabric, Fursuit Supplies, and Howell Fabrics. And those are all great. I think it's Big Z you can only do it in yard increments, whereas the other two you can do it in half-yard increments. But I always like just to compare the colors because I think that's the most important part, is the color. Another material that I forgot to talk about is clippers. If you get clippers, do not get human clippers, get the pet grooming clippers. Those are the ones that will work on fur. Human clippers will not. And I also know that from experience. helpful, and I've used that for all of my paws. Slightly modified. So really, I mean, there's not much to talk about with paws. You get the pattern. What I did, so basically I had the pattern. I actually bought like a big roll of paper. They sell it in like big rolls, so you can get like, as opposed to like 8 by 11 inch papers, like those don't make long. But like you can get a big roll. I think it was like $14, and it's like really long. You can use it for everything. Or print out patterns, or make it yourself. But yeah, so you basically just, for each shape that you want, so for example, I had a shape that was this, the gray part, and then the blue part, and then you sew it together. Really, like, this girl's, I have the most info on the head, but like, I didn't want to like, just gloss over paws and tail. But yeah, I mean, you really just, tail, same thing. You just get, I use it for this one, you trace it on the fur, and you cut it out, and you sew it together. A really important thing to note is to note what direction the fur is facing, because that has a big impact on how the final result will look. So for example, each piece, so this is my old tail, but each piece, I had 3 pieces for the colors, and then 4 sections, and double-sided. And this one is even more, this one has 5 sections, and it's just so that you can really get that, like, the flow of the fur. So as you can see, I've noted what the direction of the fur is, and I have that noted on the pattern as well. Yeah. There's several ways to be able to connect tails. There's the loop, which you can also have the loop like on the top, and it basically just, you slide the belt through it, and it sits like that. And then the one I did for this tail, I actually have a hole in it that's lined, and you can just slide the belt through. Really, there's not much of a difference. I think it just comes down to personal preference. I think for the heavier tails, this one is a little bit better, just because it really helps it stay against your body. Oh, and then like for the inside, for the paws, these things are actually stuffed. You can stuff them or you can not stuff them. That's really up to personal preference. And if you want really stuffable paw pads, get like a fabric that has more like stretch to it, and you can really really get that in there. There's a surprising amount of stuffing in these paw pads. But yeah, to the heads. There's different types of heads that you can do. A lot of people will start out with a dino mask head, which is really nice because it has that movable jaw, so you can really get like, and it's good because the base is already done. And then I think you can find them on Amazon, but like a lot of the lower priced ones on Amazon are actually like floppy dino masks, which is not what you want. Yeah, fine. A lot of like the really like big time fursuit makers will use expanding foam, so they'll make a mold of their head, and they'll like fill it with expanding foam, and then they'll like carve it away, and then they can like mass produce those essentially. 3D printed is another option, except that those can be a little bit, they have a tendency, they can like break because it's thin 3D printed fabric. The bucket head is a method that I use, where basically you have like a big piece of foam that you fit around your head and then you build off of that. The balaclava method is really similar, where you just have like the balaclava and then you build the foam off the front of that. Do not use cardboard. Cardboard will mold, and cardboard has particles in it that is not good to breathe in. Cardboard masks are really cute if you just have them to display, but do not wear them. Also, I feel like it goes without saying, don't use used materials because they've been used, especially when you have something that you're putting on your face. Someone in a Discord was like, hey, I have this old mattress.
Oh, honey.
Do not use old mattress. Okay, so then here's my process. So I use the bucket head method. So I basically I start with just a piece of foam that goes around the head, and then I cut a piece that like goes to the top. And I didn't really do measurements. I just kind of kept putting it on my head, seeing where it fit, and then glued it. And then essentially just keep adding and cutting away pieces, and adding more pieces if you need it, and then cutting away some more. And it's really just a back and forth between that. And these are the next 2 steps. I attach the ears, and I put the eyes in for like the test fit. Another good material is EVA foam. it's very stiff and sturdy, so it's really good for ears, especially when you have like big like standing ears.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, and then lined. So the method for lining is you take, a lot of people use saran wrap because duct tape does not stick very well to foam. But a lot of people use saran wrap and like stuff the saran wrap in there and then the tape on the saran wrap. Then you take it out and you make cuts. They're called darts, which is what gives it like a rounded effect, essentially. So you line the inside of the head with duct tape, and you take the duct tape out and you cut it in places to make sure it's flat, so that you can transfer it onto your liner material, and then you can cut that out and sew it together. And always make sure that you leave room for seams, or else it'll end up too small and it won't fit in your head.
Oh yeah.
The next step is taping. And so basically, what you do is you cover it in tape and you draw on it where the markings are. And then also what's really helpful is to point arrows in the direction of the fur. Because then, as I said, like that gives a really neat finish, and I think that's what makes the biggest difference, aside from like the shading, in like a really like complete looking fursuit head. And then you transfer, once you have your darts and your everything cut, you can transfer it onto the fur, making sure that you mark the direction. And then this is, the first two are for the test fits. Basically what you do, you start at the nose and you like, it's kind of the opposite of, not to get really gruesome, but like skinning an animal, where you're putting the skin onto it.
Frankensteining.
It's reverse taxidermy.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's not even reverse taxidermy, it's just regular taxidermy.
Yeah, you're right.
It's fake fur and foam. But yeah, so you just kind of push it on. I think what I did, I had the front of it and I had the back of it, and then I have very minimal hot glue between the fur and the face, just in case I wanted to take anything off. But what a lot of people will do is they'll hot glue, like starting at the front, and then they'll like push it on, like hot gluing portions at a time and just like forming it to the face. And then you just like put the ears on top. Yeah. Again, so what's really good, so you start with like an initial shave. It doesn't need to be super neat, but just so that it's easier to work with like the shorter fibers. And then you can go in when it's done and complete the shave. I have clippers with like guards, and the guards, as you can see, kind of tend to leave these like trap marks. But if you can get really stable and like work really slowly without the guard, you can like trim down so that it looks really neat. I have
without the guard.
So yeah, I started with the guard and then I went over it without the guard, and I kind of went around like each where the different furs meet, and you kind of like get the line, like you like go really carefully with like the side, like the edge, and you like get that really neat line. I have a link to the slides, and I have my links, and I have a video recording of this, so like I'll be able to put that up as well if you guys want to get it any time. And like I'll have this up if you guys want to. I also have business cards for my socials, so if anyone wants one of those. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
So if you are going to sew the fur, then I'm sorry. If you even if you are going to attach the fur to the base, you do need to sew it.
Yes. I find with like, especially with really small details like the eyebrows, hand sewing is the way to go, because you can get that really precise, like where you want it to be, where's the sewing machine, because it moves so quickly, it tends to like over sew in places. But yeah, so like each individual part is sewed together and then put on the head.
I suppose this is a series of questions. Welcome to the venue. So you just got in this year?
Yeah, in February.
So, in February, so you made the suit and...
I made the head in about 3 weeks because I worked nonstop. I literally just like, I was like, we're doing it, and I did it.
Felt.
So
I feel it.
how many parts did you make for just this?
So for this one, so I have the head, and like the clouds are actually a very recent addition to the head, and then the horns I want to get 3D printed at some point with the covering on top. I made my first set of paws, which are pretty scraggly, as I said, because of Joanne Fabrics fur. They're unlined because I didn't want to mess with lining them. And the stitching on the inside of the paw pad, it's like coming out because I just didn't do a very good job with it. And then, like you can see, there's actually the third paws that I made. The second one was like a commission paws. You can see the difference in the quality, and like that's just after like 3 sets of paws.
So ballpark for the fursuit, how much did you spend on materials?
I want to say the head was maybe like $250 to make total, like with materials. And like that's 3 weeks of nonstop working. The paws and the tail, maybe another like 150, 200. I'm really not good at estimating prices or anything. But 500 for like a partial, and making it yourself. I feel like there's just like a sense of pride and accomplishment when you've made your own fursuit. But that's not to say that like buying a fursuit isn't also a good way to go, because it's kind of like making food for yourself. When you make food for yourself, you get the smells and tastes the entire time you're making it, and you're like, wow, yeah, I made that myself, it's great. But then when you get something in the mail, it's like when you go to a restaurant, you get food made for you. It's different. So.
Kind of building off of what she said, what's the most expensive ingredients to you?
I think honestly the fabric, the fur for sure, because it's like it can be up to like, I think online it was like maybe $36 a yard, and then you can pay for shipping on top of that. So the fabric is definitely like that is why I started with. But Joanne fabric isn't any less expensive, because it's honestly a little bit more expensive, even if you get it at a discount with the coupons, it's still like $36 a yard, but it's just worse quality. So sorry.
What type of stitch do you use, and what kind of tension settings do you have in your sewing machine?
Okay, so tension settings, I kind of mess with it until it looks right and until it feels right. So I couldn't give you like an exact tension. Stitch that I use is the blanket stitch. Okay, wait. So for the sewing machine, for the tail, I actually started with a zigzag stitch, and then I went over it with a straight stitch.
Okay.
Just in case, because I like to do overkill. For hand sewing, the blanket stitch is the way to go.
So follow up, how much yardage of fur did you use for this?
Again, I like to overestimate, so maybe like definitely less than half a yard of the cream color, then maybe like half a yard for the gray color. But I like to get extras just in case anything goes wrong, in case I like print the pattern the wrong way, in case I mess up on anything.
So approximately a yard fits a one fit.
Okay, yeah. Dad. What's that?
Your dad. Decline?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, my dad's calling. Can you sit? Like not like can you sit, but like can you sit?
No, my friend.
Are there any other questions? Did you invite?
Like for example, for those horns that you are planning on making, how do you end up attaching them to the head? Is
Okay.
it just hot glue, or is there more?
So these are actually just slid in there. I have holes like there. I just stick them into the holes. I've seen someone do bottle caps where they can screw it on. Magnets are another good way to go. I like personally. I like when they are being able to be detached, because I just think it adds it's like a little bit easier. No, that's okay.
Since it's a first time suit, I'm glad I'm making it myself, so I'm asking all the technicals. Did
Yeah.
you use a base for your head, or?
So I made, this is all made from scratch. I followed a tutorial to kind of figure out like where, like what shapes the pieces need to be in, but I didn't I just kind of eyeballed them and then like traced them onto a paper and said, because like you're not gonna get like a perfect pattern unless you use a base. But I think
How do you, I guess, construct those patterns? How do you draw it out and decide what shapes to use?
okay, so what a lot of people do, they'll like draw like the side profile on like the front profile, and they'll hold it up and they'll like make a piece of foam that kind of fits that, and then they'll like carve it down. I used a ton of reference images. My search history has Shiba Inu top view, Shiba Inu side view, like a ton of stuff like that, and I think that's really helpful, especially to try to get the animal that you're trying to make it look like. And also, like I do, as I said, I have my cards. It has my Telegram on it. If you guys ever want to ask me any questions, I think fursuit making is so cool, and like I'm always down to talk to people about fursuit making. I think.
So, more personal question. What made you decide to get into fursuits?
Okay, so here's my personal story. It's like 4 years ago, I was a little bit intoxicated, and I used to Twitch stream, and I was dressed up as a cat for Halloween. And I go, guys, I think I might be a furry. And then my friends made fun of me, and then sober, I was like, no, I'm not a furry. I'm not a furry. And then in February, my YouTube Shorts feed, I started getting a lot of fursuiters, and I was like, I might be a furry. And here we are. So.
One of us.
It's really, it's great because I've like made a ton of friends and like I love it. It's a great community.
What panel is this?
It's the fursuit making panel.
Fursuit meeting panel. How to make fursuit. Okay. I'll see myself out.
This didn't go as long as I thought it would. You guys?
Yeah. How hard and specific was it to get the fitment of the inside of the head onto your face?
Honestly, it wasn't that difficult because I kept putting it on my head to make sure everything fit. And then you can like kind of cut if it is too small. But the best thing is when it's too big, you can cut a little out and then you can like hot glue it back together. And if it's too small, you can just do the opposite. You can cut a little slit in it and then add more foam. Yeah, you can
Don't mind me?
No, you can here. It's easier. It's gonna be easier on the laptop.
Actually, I already got it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I didn't get the name of the material that you used for the translucent.
It's called buckram mesh.
Buckram.
It's used frequently for cross stitching.
Okay.
Yeah, and I got mine off of Etsy from a seller.
Follow up, I guess, for the face set. How did you pause? How did you make a face with the pause? Like a,
So the paws are just the pattern that I got online.
okay.
So yeah, there's the stuffing comes after, so there's like no foam in the paws or anything.
Would you recommend the fit of like the head to be like there's just a better time?
Yeah, so I like it to be kind of fitted to the head, and it's not like too tight to where you can't breathe, but like enough that it's just like a little bit snug, and then it won't like move around a lot when you're moving, but like loose enough that there's still a little bit of breathing room.
And did you say I don't know if you said this, but is the fur like sewn onto the
Yeah, so mine is sewn on around the nose and along the mouth. There are a couple places of hot glue, but like really I wanted it just in case I needed to make any changes later. Like for example, the ears, I need to add a color to the tip of the ears, so I didn't want to hot glue it all down just in case I needed to take it off at any point. Yeah.
What is the inside of the head lined, and so what is the line?
Yeah, so the inside of the head is lined, not attached to the neck part, but it's like a lycra fabric. That is what Joanne Fabrics is good for, is like those kinds of fabrics. The clouds are made from, it's called rose minky, and it just has like little rose swirls in it. And honestly, like I would say experiment with like other fabrics, because like you get a really unique look that way, I think.
Oh yeah, how did you get the lining inside the inside?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so the lining is all like hot glued on the inside, and then actually no, I think it's just all hot glued. And then I'm putting on probably just hot glue around here just because I don't want it to the stitches to show on the fabric itself. So.
Can I just stand up and show you? So
Yeah.
maybe if you want to do like a tutorial of like, hey, how do you fix a problem?
Sure. Sure. I mean, I still have 30 minutes. I didn't think I would get through it this fast.
daughter's embarrassed, but,
That's
so my daughter's 10 and she's been working on, she could mention this part, but she's been trying to put all the rest of it together
Yeah.
herself. And so she made these ears and, they're kind of glued onto the little slit area. Obviously, you know, they don't really
Yeah.
stay. So for everybody's learning and mine and hers, what would you do to fix this? Like, how do we have to like attach another foam to make it go down into the slit and the hole?
So there's a slit right there. I would actually use EVA foam because it is so stiff. And then it doesn't even need to be like the size of the whole ear, but just enough that it goes in the slit and then can like stand up in it. Because the EVA foam, as I said, it's so stiff that it stands up really well.
And right here, behind the mask, there's not a lot of support, it's just like soft
Yeah.
fur. So it should hold even with that, like there's
I
not,
think so.
there's
Like,
not any structure.
if it's like in the slit, like I would say that it
It'll
would,
hold.
yeah.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to add that EVA foam is like a little bendier than like any kind of just like solid foam, and you can just like, so if you have like a carpeted room, you can like get like these little EVA like floor panels that you can get. They're like EVA foam, and you can just take some of those and trace out the ear pattern on that and cut it out.
Yeah, I mean, it comes in like a bunch of different thicknesses. The one I use is like I think it's like a 1/4 inch thick. But the EVA foam mats are great, especially for like feet paws, for like walking around. Which like I didn't have anything on feet paws, but that's just because I haven't made any yet, and I don't really want to like talk about something that I haven't personally made. So, yeah, yeah.
What kind of skills do you need to have before you start fursuit making?
I think having like a little bit of like a 3D spatial awareness, but like everyone starts somewhere. So I would honestly say like you don't. Like the skills are gonna be acquired by starting and practicing. I had skills in like I've had like a bunch of 3D skills. So like forming the base was a lot of that, and like being able to, cause like, it's kind of like ceramics but foam. So.
What was the name of the mesh that you used for the eyes?
It's called buckram foam.
Buckring?
Buckram.
Oh.
I'll put it up again. Okay. Right there. And it's used for like cross stitching and stuff. And like y'all like are like welcome to come and like look and get pictures off my laptop because this isn't great. Yeah.
Kind of maintenance as well, question, but you said that you lined the inside of the fursuit head. I actually haven't. How would you go about doing that?
I mean, so basically tape along the inside. You might need saran wrap because the tape does not like to stick to foam. Then take very gently so that the tape doesn't stick to itself, which is where saran wrap might really come in handy. Take it out and cut it in the places where it'll make it flat. And then put that on a pattern, and then like when you sew like the lycra essentially together, then you can like put it in. And I started at the top of the head, like in the dome of the head, started from there, and then just kind of went as I like just along it to like hot glue it in.
Okay, copy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then to not see like any of the seams from the lining, like for example in the mouth, I have like basically just like a piece of thick fabric, like glued. It's bent and glued like that, and then like glued around the outside of the mouth.
So after making the suit, what would you do differently for your next suit?
I think that I would exaggerate a lot of the features a lot more. For example, the cheeks, I think that I could have made it look a lot more smiley, and the nose, I'm actually gonna make bigger because like right now it feels like the nose is really small, and it's because the faux fur will add like a 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch, so that when I use the fabric for the nose, which is like a flat fabric, it looks way smaller than it was supposed to.
So, how do you clean the fur?
Okay, so a lot of people will take like, I think I've seen people, I haven't done it myself yet because I've only worn her like once or twice. There are makers who sell alcohol sprays with like, that's good for like in between uses, and then heavy uses, like you should wash it. There's a lot of different methods to wash it. I think I've seen people use like
bristles?
What's that?
The bristle?
Yeah. No. Yeah, you can use that. Yeah, I've seen people use like the steam cleaners, like the whistles. I feel like I saw someone mention dish soap, but like don't quote me on that because I don't remember. And then I've seen people use like, what's it called? Like detergent. But like you need like a really lightweight like detergent for it. But then you can like hand wash it. I've seen people put their suits like in a tub of water. So, but you need to make sure that you dry it out really well. So that's where the thistle comes in handy because you can like pull it out.
I will add, if you have an expanding foam base, if you put it in water, it's gonna fall apart. So don't do that.
Yeah, it definitely depends on the kind of base that you have. So like I would say do your research for like the specific kind of base that you have.
I was gonna say, like, for drying fursuit head, I've seen people like set it, like, you can just buy like a dust fan or something for like 10-15 bucks on Amazon, and you can set the head on that, and it'll like dry the inside of it.
Yeah.
And then other people like hang it upside down on the ceiling fan and just like the light part of the ceiling fan, and they turn the fan on, and it like blows around it so that the head stays still.
Really, you just want to make sure that it's like
Think
thoroughly
smarter, not
dry
be
so that it
harder.
doesn't get gross. Because like the point of washing it is to make it ungross. So like.
I said think smarter, don't do harder.
Any more questions, comments, concerns? Yeah.
What would be your advice, especially like for people that wear glasses and want to get suits?
Test the fit of the glasses. Like, like anything else. Obviously, put a little bit more room. I've read a lot of people like that. It can actually like make glasses fog up. Contacts might be a good option. I don't know. Like to avoid the glasses problem. But yeah, so just like extra room. You can carve like a little, depending on the shape of your glasses, that little extra room, like where the eyes are. So I have to make one with glasses, so I haven't done that yet because I'm avoiding it.
For the eye,
Sorry.
what type of paint do you use?
This
And
is
how do you seal it?
it's acrylic paint. Mine aren't sealed because I forgot. But Mod Podge is really good for sealing. They actually have, there's also like some sprays that are good for sealing. Sealing is really important because then when you do go to wash it, it won't wash all the paint of the eyes off. I think some people also will have like removable eyes just so that when they do try to wash it, like they don't have to worry about the eyes.
I do have a suggestion for eyes. Something I've seen that's popular lately is if you have a Cricut machine, sublimation works wonders if you get the correct fabric.
Sublimation?
Sublimation. It's like if you do it like digitally and then you can print it out onto the fabric itself.
Mm.
Yeah.
I never see this convention, another tutorial. How in the world do you make eye blends?
Say that one more time.
How would you make the eye blends if you want to make your
So a lot of people will use like really thin, not really thin foam, but like white, that like foam board stuff, and they'll like cut out the shape of it, and then they'll cut out these are for follow me eyes, obviously. They'll cut out like a thin strip that they can then put around the eye. I like 3D printed because they're more durable, and they're stiff and they'll hold up well.
Do you have any tips to line up the eyes so that they can get a decent?
Yeah, so mine, like for the liner part, mine are about halfway up into the eye socket. It's kind of the same where you just take a strip and you go around. Like mine, it was just kind of built into the liner pattern. So like I put the tape into the eye so I can see. Actually, I do think it goes all the way around here just so that it would really be like in there, for lack of a better term. Yeah. I hope this was at least a little bit informative, a good jumping off point. But like honestly, like I recommend like finding a tutorial that's really like that's why I like the paw tutorial because it was a nice video tutorial with a free pattern. It's Runner Rabbit, and I can put that I can like add that to the slides. For tails, I think tails are probably the easiest part as long as you don't have too many colors because you can just like trace the shape that you want on a paper and then flip it over when you want to. Yeah.
Yeah, what features does the like sewing machine need to have?
Straight stitch, I think is the most important feature. I think it's a walking foot can be helpful because it'll like pull the fabric along as you're sewing. I think the one I have was like an inexpensive Brothers sewing machine. It was like maybe like $250, $300, which is kind of on the lower end for a sewing machine. And it has like a lot of good features. It has like a bunch of different stitches, and it came with a bunch of different parts. But I mean, like I think as long as it has like a straight stitch, you're probably good. Just so you don't have to do the entire thing by hand. But yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys for coming. As I said,